Welcome to the Biddle Law Library. I'm Jordan Steele, Archivist of the National Bankruptcy Archives. The National Bankruptcy Archives preserves, promotes, and provides access to organizational records and personal papers that document the history of bankruptcy law in the United States.
This video will provide a brief overview of the collections in the National Bankruptcy Archives, the process by which research is conducted in the archives, and a description of how the archive's array of historical materials is promoted. The video will also include interviews with prominent bankruptcy figures who will talk more about the importance of bankruptcy law within the context of legal history and scholarship. In October 2000, the Biddle Law Library at the University of Pennsylvania Law School and the American College of Bankruptcy collaborated to create a special collection entitled the National Bankruptcy Archives, a national repository of materials relating to the history of debtor-creditor relations, bankruptcy, and the reorganization of debt. The archives was founded because of a need to raise awareness about the impact of bankruptcy law on American culture.
First of all, my being struck by just how important bankruptcy is and how much of a role it's played historically in political debate. It doesn't seem like a hugely important issue right now, but in the 19th century it was seen as just a critical issue and seen as central to the nature of our economy. The general understanding was that if we wanted to have a commercial economy, we really needed a bankruptcy law, and we needed a federal one. If we were to be more agrarian, bankruptcy was less important.
The archives collects letters, publications, and photographs, as well as organizational records that are of value to researchers and practitioners of bankruptcy law. The archive's particular strengths include material documenting the events surrounding and following the passage of the Bankruptcy Reform Act of 1978, the most significant revision of bankruptcy laws to date. The archives also maintains large holdings related to the uncertainty about the status of bankruptcy judges in the 1980s, as well as records related to bankruptcy reform efforts in the 1990s. With help from the American College of Bankruptcy and the National Conference of Bankruptcy Judges, the archives also preserves material from organizations and people influential in the development of bankruptcy law, including the papers of bankruptcy scholar Lawrence P. King, as well as the papers of Ralph H. Kelly, a bankruptcy judge who served as a notable advocate for the improved status of bankruptcy judges. The archives also collects audiovisual materials. In 2006, Judge Randall Newsom donated tapes of over 30 oral history interviews he had conducted with prominent figures in bankruptcy. The following clip comes from an oral history conducted with Judge George Payne as part of the National Conference of Bankruptcy Judges Oral History Project.
When you first became involved in the organization and when you first came on the bench, what sort of issues were confronting bankruptcy practice?
Everything. I mean, they were in transition, and as far as practice went, we were going from a bankruptcy system that basically liquidated companies and individuals to one that was reorganizing, restructuring some of the largest companies in the country. So it was a great place to be as far as sophisticated issues, lots of money, and I don't think anyone ever imagined in 1978 the power and prestige that would accrete to the bankruptcy court as a consequence of the economy of the 80s.
People interested in conducting research at the National Bankruptcy Archives normally contact the archives in one of two ways, online or in person. The request is received by our archivist, Jordan Steele. Jordan has a graduate degree in library science from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and is a member of the Academy of Certified Archivists. The archivist carefully reviews the inquiry, following up with the researcher if more information is needed. Each collection in the archives has a corresponding finding aid, which helps researchers determine the scope and content of that collection. Finding aids are available online through the library's website, which means that researchers can consult the finding aids before scheduling a trip to the archives. Once the researcher has identified collections that are relevant, he or she contacts the archivist for further assistance or to schedule an appointment. For substantive research inquiries, the patron will come to the archives to take a look at the materials. Recent research projects involving materials in the archives include the drafting of a history of the National Conference of Bankruptcy Judges and Judge Geraldine Munn's articles about the activities of the bankruptcy judges in the 1970s, which was published in several issues of the American Bankruptcy Law Journal. The Biddle Law Library's reference area also serves as a space for periodic exhibitions of materials in the National Bankruptcy Archives. One recent exhibit, shown here, highlighted materials from the National Bankruptcy Archives' range of collections.
We hope you've enjoyed this tour of the National Bankruptcy Archives. You can contact me or visit our website to find out more information about how the Biddle Law Library, the National Conference of Bankruptcy Judges, and the American College of Bankruptcy continue to document bankruptcy's past, present, and future.